So today's smart cities celebrate the marriage of cities with cyberspace, but do they really understand who they are getting in bed with? And what is really cyberspace? So one definition of cyberspace is that basically it's a new language designed to speak to a new species that came on Earth 200 years ago, complex machines. And its first communicator was actually French. It was the Jacquard loom, built at the very start of the age of machines. And the other question is why cyberspace today is so dominant as a topic of discussion in security and elsewhere, since we've had actually computers for the last 50 years. Well, then a study in 2012 by Martin Hilbert from University of Southern California evaluated the share of digital information coded in 0 and 1 versus analog information, the rest of all type of information in communication and storage. Back in 1986, digital only made up 0.3% of all information exchange in mankind. But by 2007, it had reached 93%. As Mark Andreessen, the former founder of Netscape, stated in 2011, software has eaten the world. And it is also eating the city. IT investment in smart cities were very negligible just back at the start of this very decade. But they will reach $1 trillion, or so forth, in about 5 years from now. And by the shape of the curve you can see on the screen, you can tell it's just but the start. Sorry. And it is also potentially the start of many problems. As you can see in other human activities, for example, in finance, the cybersecurity risks, as evaluated by the Bank of England for the city, was barely mentioned as a top 3 systemic risk back in 2013, only 4 years ago. But today, this risk is mentioned as a top 3 systemic risk by 45% of finance executives. And evidently, you see about the same thing today with cyber risk against smart cities. Last year, a survey of IT executives in the smart city industries showed that concern for cybersecurity risks were indeed very, very significant. And especially for a couple of key city provision, telecom through Wi-Fi, public Wi-Fi, electricity through smart grid, transportation, and security through surveillance cameras. So indeed, this is all turning into a critical challenge. But it has also very specific characteristics because indeed we are dealing with systems for cities, and cities today play a very particular role in our civilization. First, with the industrial age, cities have started to concentrate population. Urban population has grown from 3%, nothing much, in the year 1800, to 50% in 2010, and probably 70% in only 35 years from now. Second, and even more important, now with the digital age, cities concentrate wealth. Cities are small world networks in terms of topology. Anything is quickly available: assets, information, human talent. So this is where you can build and test and market the quickest products, services, ideas. And so today, for example, in the US, the 50 most populous metropolitan areas out of 366 contain 72% of all the richest households, the top 5% households. And so then, third, in cyber defense, cities are becoming highly political targets. Cities constitute the last mile for all critical infrastructure, where you reach most people. In cyber physical terms, you'd say that this is really where cyber meets physical. And in the digital age, as we see, cities are the most important economic targets. And you can see that also in other fields. For example, just this week, US Army Chief General Mark Milley stated that wars will be fought mostly in megacities. And thus, in strategic cyber defense, you can also sum up some of the field into, in large part, the cyber defense of cities. Second element is that the cyber infrastructure of cities is very fragile and vulnerable because it can be easily shut down for one reason. It often deals with people's safety, and you don't take risks with people's safety. Here on the screen, you have the Carmel Tunnel, a very important connection to the city of Haifa in Israel, which was shut down for 2 days in October 2013 because a cyber attack knocked out the video camera surveillance system, the fire control system, and the air conditioning system. Actually, cars could still physically run inside the tunnel, but because proper safety conditions were not met, the system was shut down. Now, this is very different from, say, cyber risks in the corporate world, where actually you can accept to lose money. In this type of system, you just cannot accept to lose human lives. And this makes it a very hot topic. For example, in 2014, just after 2 security researchers demonstrated that Jeep Cherokee's cars could be hacked, quickly a dedicated bill was pushed into the US Congress. But too much interest from authorities or the police, actually that poses a problem for criminals. Crime is about getting money, and killing attracts too much attention. But there's a solution for this, and this is called ransomware, a malware that encrypts data or servers so you can't use them unless you pay for it. Ransomware switches the risk of killing from the cyber criminals to the manager of systems, to the victims. And for maximum effect, ransomware focuses on time-critical issues, such as, for example, provision of drugs in hospitals. Because if you don't have the medical records of patients in due time, they may get the wrong medication or the wrong dosage and get sicker. So it becomes the ethical responsibilities of hospitals to accept blackmail. Indeed, according to FireEye, the 3 top industries most victim of ransomware are first and foremost healthcare, and then telecom and transportation. Each are time-critical operations. Who cares if you have backup online in a few hours? You need the right drug at the right moment, or your transportation system in full capabilities at the time of rush hour. To stress this time-critical issue for both healthcare and transportation, you can even attack the emergency phone systems. In 2016, the Department of Homeland Security revealed that more than 600 emergency phone systems had been hacked, including 200 with telephony denial of service attacks. And then on top of that, cities are also incredibly complex. A first level of complexity is the mix of both the IT system and the operational technology, often with mechanical systems. The Russian cyber attack against the Ukrainian electrical distribution utilities in 2015 was quickly stopped thanks to electromechanical systems that were manually modified. So that shows that if you don't control the whole operation technology side of the equation, there's a limitation to how much damage you can do. On the other hand, the Stuxnet attack against the Natanz uranium enrichment plant in Iran between 2007 and 2010 included probably multidisciplinary work to understand intimately how to break from the inside a P1 centrifuges. It worked very well, probably thanks to this deep understanding both of the IT flows, but also the operational technology issues. Then we're also dealing in cities with multiple layers of responsibility. It's another dimension of complexity. From the machine providers, the software providers, the service providers, City Hall, or even the security service from the state, who must act and who must pay. Take the EU General Data Protection Regulation that will apply next year for all corporations. Fines can be quite heavy, up to 4% of revenues, if there's no proper management of data. But it applies to all sorts of organizations, including city councils. So if there's a data leak from public transportation systems, be ready for interesting legal fights on who pays what. Finally, there's a matter of imagination. A city is made up of many different subsystems. And for cyber criminals, that means that with imagination and time, nothing is much impossible. The transportation system can be blackmailed by ransomware, as happened in San Francisco. The heating system of buildings can be knocked down by a denial of service attack, as happened in Finland last year at time of sub-zero temperature. Connected fridges can enable criminals to increase power consumption all at once, to attack the power grid and shut it down, and this was mentioned by a cybersecurity officer from Huawei. Driverless cars can all of a sudden turn left in the same city and kill hundreds of people in a distributed terror attack. Or, in a much simpler way, you can make pretend terror happened and create panic. On September 11, 2014, reports of an explosion in the US South were sent via SMS, social media, and online version of local newspapers. ISIS had attacked an important chemical plant in Louisiana. Except it was all fake. It was the work of a Russian agency. But it's easy to see how the tools of cyber disinformation, as they are used today by Russia against Western democracies, can be used locally. Fake planted news could defame the mayor. Riots could erupt in sensitive neighborhoods because of online rumors. And all that could be used as influence tools by local mafia and disrupt the life and order of a city. And then there are the things that we may not even be able to imagine today. In the next 5 years, there will be in a civilian lab a supercomputer with a theoretical computing power of the human brain. Usually it takes 15 to 20 years to find that type of power in civilian labs done in mainstream commerce. So just imagine the type of power all of us will have at our fingertips in 20, 25 years from now. Additionally, according to some US Air Force researchers, there may be 2 trillion connected devices in 15, 20 years from now. If only half a percentage point of them is autonomously moving, there will be more robots than human beings on Earth. We will be flooded by a swarm of intelligent virtual or physical agents. Since we all live in the cities, they will live too in cities, and they will do our bidding and will express either the best or the worst in ourselves, either improving cities beyond our imagination or destroying them. And this points to a very fast coming crisis. But this is also a fantastic opportunity to act. And acting will mean first cooperating, because superiority in cyber defense is based on learning more and quicker about the enemy than the enemy can learn on you. Cyber defense actors are starting to organize themselves into a global learning network, a sort of white net. It includes threat platforms and standardized information systems to accelerate exchange on emerging threats, or even bug bounty to co-opt hackers. And at the heart of it, you will find a small coalition of nation-states based on trust, but perhaps you'll find also a network of smart cities in North America, Europe, and Asia, and who knows, perhaps this conference will be one of those building blocks of those future league of super cities defending against cyber criminals. At any rate, because of a need to share between partners attribution information or tools to get and agree collectively on the whole picture, cyber defense may take collective defense an absolute necessity in the 21st century. Another pillar of that reaction will be simulation. Simulation is already used today for deception. You have today a new generation of very sophisticated honeypot systems, and thanks to them, the defender can safely learn on the attacker while the attacker attacks the simulated wrong targets, and this could inverse actually the asymmetry of information that still currently favors the attacker. Simulation is also the only way to model very complex environments. It is being used today, for example, to understand cities and make them smart, but also to understand computer networks and where are their vulnerabilities. Now, if you mix both, we will better solve key questions such as what are the true costs, the real damages, and the unexpected effects of a cyber attack. Simulation could also have a dual civilian-military role because it can also help better manage the development of cities. Finally, cities must be proactive and turn the business model of security from risk containment only to business development opportunity. This has been the approach followed at nation-state level by Israel, and it has many benefits. It increases the influence of the state, of a city. More importantly, it brings self-funding and international excellency to the cybersecurity efforts. In the digital age, cities will both cooperate and compete also one against each other. The cities that will take the edge in cybersecurity will be both safer and richer. They will be the one gaining the competitive edge. Thank you.